Let's take a look at how you can leverage generic components in Bunnyshell. Essentially, generic components are a sequence of scripts which you define and will be run by a Bunnyshell into an image which acts as a runner. So let's take an example, a practical example. Let's say I have to integrate a database, a serverless database, in my environment. And for this I chose Neon, which is a Postgres serverless database. Let's take a look at the configuration and see how it looks like. So I have the backend application, which is defined based on the Docker Compose format, and here we can see that I have used from the Neon database component, which is the one that we're going to look at in a moment. From the exported property, the variable db host. So basically the db host ends up being injected into the backend component after being exported by the Neon database component, which is a generic component. Let's take a deeper look at what the generic component looks like. So basically the generic component runs on an image. In this case it runs on an image provided by us. A container gets created from this image, to be more precise, and the scripts from the deploy attribute are run in sequence when the deployment is made. Similarly, when the environment is deleted, the scripts under the destroy property get executed, and this happens for starting and stopping an environment as well. So remember we said that the db host is exported from here, right, and it will be used within another component, and we can see that the branch ID is also exported. The branch ID is actually used here within the same component. It's injected into the runner so that this script can leverage it. So this is a pretty neat trick, and so is the database host. It's used here also. So you can inject these exported variables not only into other component, but in subsequent runs of the same component as well. Here these two are used in this way in order to provide persistency, basically. So once the first run of the deploy occurs, within this script, the create database sh, these two variables, dbhost and branch ID, are exported, and then they're exported from Bunnyshell as well. So basically Bunnyshell remembers their values. They're stored encrypted safely, don't worry, but Bunnyshell stores the values so that they can be used in later runs, either for the same component or for other components. And this is what it's achieved here. It's used in the subsequent runs of the same component, but here in the backend it's used basically in the run of the same deployment, right, but for a different component. Okay, so as you can see, the deploy basically just downloads script, right, and then it executes it. It could have defined here like 20 or 30 lines of code, of instructions to be run, but we chose this way in order to be more organized and more concise. One more thing to add here is that you can add Git attributes here. You can add Git repo and also Git repo, and also the Git branch and the Git application path, similarly to other components. And this will cause Bunnyshell to actually clone the respective repository So I mean like this and this way, right? If I'd had this, basically Bunnyshell would copy my demo books repository from the master branch and only keep the front-end folder, and then run all of these commands within this folder. So this is it regarding on how to define the generic components. But there's one more thing I'd like to show, and this is the pipeline. You can see the pipeline for the latest deployment here, and if I go to the deploy components stage, to the deploy Neon database job, Neon database is the name of my component, I can see here the steps which were ran, the commands which were actually ran, and I can see the full output here. Not much to see here. It's doing curl, right? So I see the curl output, and then this is some output from my script, which is this script here, create database, which was run here, and I can see that dot space create database sh was the command being run. So this is very useful when debugging what happens with your components within runners when you deploy or destroy or start or stop an environment.